When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocco's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocco's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 and Gage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
It's the season for brand new mulch, and Brown's Tree Service has got your yard covered. Brown's Tree Service utilizes hardwood mulch that retains more moisture. Not only does mulch make your yard more appealing, it also reduces weeds, improves soil, and creates insulation for plants. Get the right mulch for your job at Brown's Tree Service. They shred it, haul it, and spread it in bulk. Or you can haul it yourself for the personal touch to your property. Call Brown's Tree Service at 785-379-9212 or visit online at brownstreeservicelc.com.
It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.
Good Saturday morning to you. This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. I would like to remind everybody that today from 1:30 to 3:30, we are having a free home buyer class where we walk you through everything that goes into buying a house. And that is going to be at 2900 Northwest Button Road, Suite A. So if you have time, stop by. We will be going through everything again that you might need to know and answer all of your questions, and it's totally free. So check it out. And today I have on Broderick Jayroe. Broderick is a fellow broker. He and I both owned Realty Executives franchises at the same time. He has gone on to ERA, and I went to EXP. And today we are going to be talking about equity trading. That is something pretty new to me. He's been doing it for quite a while, and he's the one that introduced me to it. But it's so cool. Basically, what we're doing is we are taking. So, say for instance, you're an investor and you have a ton of properties and you're just done. You don't want to be dealing with renters anymore, or you want to do something else. And that's kind of the situation where several of my investors are. So what we do is we take their properties and we take it usually to Las Vegas or to San Diego, and we present it to a room full of other brokers that do the same thing. So what we're doing is we're trading out properties. So say, for instance, one in particular, I have an investor that has lakefront property in another town, and he would like to someday move to Arizona. So what we're doing is we're taking that property on the lakefront that you could build on and trading it for property in Arizona. Obviously, we have to find all the right pieces and place them all together, but that's really the gist of it. So technically, if you're out of pocket any, it's because you upgraded, or if you downgrade, for that matter. It's really good for people that have a lot of property in 1031 exchanges, but that's not the only reason why. And there's a lot of really interesting scenarios that go into that. So Broderick and I are going to be discussing that. Like I said, he's a wealth of knowledge. Good morning, Broderick. How are you doing?
Good morning, Carrie. So glad to be here.
So I obviously just told everybody you are a guru of equity trading and gave them kind of a base of what to expect in equity trading. But how would you describe it?
Well, I think you're being generous by saying I'm a guru. I am fascinated and I enjoy equity trading at a high level, and it is part of my real estate career. It's not all of what we do, but it's the part I enjoy the most. Equity trading, to summarize, if I could tie it up in one or two sentences, it's an alternative way of thinking about doing a real estate transaction. And we often, let's take just a simple number and a simple piece of real estate. Ultimately, people want to sell, say, a piece of real estate for $100,000. It can be $1 million. It can be $2 million. But they're going to do something with that money. We try to cut money as a middleman out of it and get them to their next step. And there's tax advantages to that in the right circumstances. I'm not a tax advisor, so we always refer our clients to tax advisors. But if you take a property for a property, or a property for chattel or personal, maybe somebody has a motorhome they want versus a piece of real estate, or maybe somebody wants another property. There's you look and you determine what that equity is, and then you balance equities and move through the transaction, and it doesn't always involve money. So we talk about the equity rather than the capital. And we go to a number of groups, and this year I'm committed to go to a dozen different equity trading events. Some of those are in the Midwest. There's some that are in Nevada, some that are in Texas. One group is in a different state every month. Another group is in the same state every other month. So regional groups, national groups. So it can be just as diverse and creative as you want to be. So there's not always a list price versus a cash price. Sometimes it's other considerations. I will take X number of dollars and something else. And if you counsel with your buyers and sellers, that something else can be as diverse as your imagination. It can be notes. It can be chattel, motorcycles, RVs, other properties in other countries. And if you've got a network that you can look at such inventory or find other people who have considered other inventory, it gives you a lot more options. Carrie, actually, you came to a meeting with us back in October. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. And I brought a huge portfolio out of Manhattan and the surrounding areas. That I thought it was a lot of fun, honestly. And I brought several from the Topeka and actually kind of all over the place. I thought it was a lot of fun, just getting up there and presenting it, and having several hands go up in the room. We ended up with 11 offers on a huge package. It was around $28 million. None of them specifically worked out, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't happen and it be the perfect situation. I thought it was great because my guy is really wanting manufactured homes, because basically you're renting land, and it's a lot less trouble than, having, I think, like 148 doors to deal with as far as rental management is concerned. And there were a lot of interesting options that got thrown out, from paper, like life insurance. There were a lot of really interesting options.
Yeah, so you mentioned life insurance, and I'll give you continue to give you lots of disclaimers, because that's what we do when we're trained as brokers. But I'm not in the life insurance business. I'm a real estate broker. But you mentioned the life insurance policy being offered in as equity on a property. Somebody is at a different stage in their life and they no longer need that policy, but it's still in effect, or it's fully paid for, and that gives it value. And I don't understand exactly how all those worked, but I know at that meeting, in the meeting I just returned from, I got back at 6:00 this morning. There were other life insurance policies fully paid for, or they had capital built up inside of them, and people offer those in on properties. Once we have a buyer and seller that want to do that transaction, we get with their accountants and their attorneys, and they walk that transaction through after we've brought the inventory together, and it is exciting to be in some of the trading events. There are so many creative minds in the room, and there's inventory from all 50 states. Seldomly do we not have every state in the country represented, and we'll have people trade in from Canada or Italy or you name a country. They will have a lot or a building, and it's so far out of the day-to-day thinking comfort zone of most people. But if you open it up, you mentioned you had 11 offers. How many offers did you have the 6 months prior to your trading meeting?
For the whole thing, none. We could splice it out, but not at that scale. I mean, it was, some of them were dollar to dollar. Some of them were just portioned out to where I think one was for $11 million in properties, trading out for another $11 million based on what he was looking for. There were a couple that we probably could have spliced together, but what they were trading at that time he didn't want. But really, it doesn't mean that he didn't have to take those. He could have taken something else, so we could have swapped it out for something else. It was just timing.
So at that point, we would introduce maybe a third leg,
right,
or even a fourth leg. And we have some sellers that will only take cash, but you may get an offer of maybe they've got a small office building that they want $150,000 for in Wichita, and somebody from Topeka offers a duplex for a similar value. Well, they don't want the duplex, but somebody else out there wants the duplex. And so then we go to find the buyer for the duplex. We're two-stepping and three-stepping sometimes, but what they will teach you from the room in these different groups is the answer is always yes. We just have to figure out how many steps to get to the yes to meet the client's needs.
Absolutely.
The more flexible. So you had 11 offers because you had a room full of creative minds, and from all over the country, we had representation there. And in your typical, we want full price cash offers, that was a limited market. There's a lot of money in the economy right now. I am not an economist, but there seems to be way more lenders out there than there is inventory to marry up. What people want is, in my counseling sessions, they want security, they want specific needs met, they want mailbox money is a common term we hear in the industry. They want an asset that's managed where the money just comes to them. And everything that you and I deal in our day-to-day brokerage is real estate, real property. And, trading in equities, it's not a new concept, but it is a concept, if you pursue it, that will give your buyers and sellers many more options than X number of dollars at this date for this property. I find, and I enjoy it from the seller's perspective, because it gives them a lot of variety, and it helps you walk them through some processes, exploring 1031s, which we'll talk about in a subsequent radio interview. But 1031s are just the beginning. Some of these individuals are traded notes. Maybe they're carrying payments on a property, and it has a set amount of interest that is paid on that note, or principal and interest sometimes, every month for a decade or 2 decades. Well, they'll use that and harness that note to go buy other properties. Or they'll have a paid-for property, and they will go and create a note against that paid-for property. They don't want to sell the property. They don't necessarily want to go get a bank loan that triggers X number of dollars a month and an appraisal fee and underwriting fees and doc prep fees, but they'll create a note and they'll start to pay themselves interest at a title company on that note. And once they've paid in so many dollars, it now has a track record. Some of these guys will pay on notes on their own property for 3 or 4 years to show that this is real, even though these individuals created the notes themselves. And then they'll go use that note to buy other properties. It's a really neat group. And yeah, you've got 144 units listed, or 144 doors, I believe. They were talking about it this week. I presented for a friend. He's got an apartment complex in Odessa, Kansas. I presented it twice in the last 2 weeks at meetings, and we've sent out packages. He's probably got a buyer coming out of that deal.
Yeah. One of the weird things that I saw was paintings that they were trading out in jewelry. They did paintings and jewelry. They do just as a training in this particular group that we were at earlier this week. They do a cowboy auction, and the cowboy auction is simply to get the first-time attendees to get their minds around something other than money. And they started with a gold Cougaran, which effectively is money. You know, it was trading at $15.60 an ounce, and they had it on a picture of it on a projector, and they asked everybody in the room, "What would you give for this?" And some of the people in the room said, "I've got an Airbnb. I'll give you 4 nights at. It's in Fort Lauderdale. I'll give you 4 nights Airbnb and for the Cougaran." And then they said, "Who else would make an offer?" Another gentleman had a vacation rental in Southern California. He said, "I'll give you 3 nights vacation rental, which is a $1,500 value." Another gentleman had a hot air balloon company where they'll go out. He lives in Albuquerque area, and he goes, "I'll take you up when we do our big festival and event, and we'll let you spend the day with us. I'll get you lunch for the Cougaran." And so 20 offers later, but they wouldn't let us trade one-to-one like that. They would then go below all those offers and say, "Who in the room what would you give for the Airbnb 3-night stay? Who in the room wants the Albuquerque balloon ride?" And so they would go 3 layers deep, and then they would mix and match until eventually we had at or above asking price for the first leg, and everyone was happy. Something that is worth, $2,000 to me may have no value to you, or vice versa. You have something that's worth $2,000 to me, but you don't necessarily need it anymore, so trade it into something you want or something that provides an income. And that's what the equity trading mindset does. Maybe you've got a $1 million property that you're not making any income on. Maybe it's raw land. And we could counsel with you and maybe take notes and other considerations and some money and get you to a place you want to be versus making $1,200 a year crop share off of agriculture. Absolutely. But I don't necessarily want to trade it for cash. But I would trade it for income property or other assets. We are going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. We'll be back to talk more about equity trading and try and explain it a little bit more in detail. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back.
Southwest Topeka has a good neighbor. State Farm agent Jim Garrison, now at 29th and Urish. If your current insurance situation has you going around in circles, get off the roundabout and stop in and meet Jim and his wonderfully efficient staff. Let Jim Garrison give you a quote and make the Garrison comparison. He's confident that with State Farm's competitive rates, the right coverage, and his unmatched service, you'll want to make him your new insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and Jim Garrison is there for you, northeast of the roundabout at 29th and Urish.
When someone has a passion for what they do, it comes through in the product they provide their customers. Just ask LaRocco's Pizza's new owner, Jason Johnson, about their crust. They make it every day and let it rise for a minimum of 24 hours before they use it for their pizza. And his staff doesn't want to do anything they won't be the best at, and you can taste it in their pizza. LaRocco's Pizza, just a half block north of the I-470 and Gage Boulevard exit. Come taste the difference.
At SportsMomsUnited.com, we celebrate every athlete and support every sports mom. SportsMomsUnited.com is on a mission to put logic back in youth sports. When you ask young athletes why they play sports, their number one answer is fun. For them, that means being on a team, making new friends, having a good time, all of which are awesome memories. We add to the memories by featuring an athlete of the day and sharing their story. Nominate an athlete today at www.sportsmomsunited.com.
Thanks for joining us again. This is Carrie Brown, Associate Broker with eXp Realty and the Preferred Advisors team, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. And I am back with my guest host for the month, Broderick Jayroe. Thanks for joining me again, Broderick.
How you doing, Carrie? You're talking about some of my favorite stuff, and that's equity trading. And the easy summary, and I know we're at the back half of the show here. The easiest way to define it is, if you own a piece of real estate or you want to buy a piece of real estate, it's not always about cash in and cash out. You can get just as creative as you want to. One of the famous sayings, or one of the common sayings in one of the groups we trade with, I'll give you two of them. They say the power of the room, which is what you experienced when you traded with us in October, presenting a property that hasn't got as much activity as you want. We try and talk with our clients when we present a piece of property that maybe is of a larger dollar value, or it's a complex property. The power of the room, when you get 100 brokers from 35 or 40 states looking, you get a lot of traction. There's also the power of broke. We have young brokers come in, young licensed professionals come in the room, and they want to buy a property, but they've got no cash. So the power of the room has one value in these trading conferences. The power of broke has another value. We'll get 25-year-old brokers that are literally just starting out in their career, but they really, really, really want to get a property bought and become a principal, or get a property bought for their buyer. And they present themselves on deals and like, I want to buy this property. Would anybody want to partner with me? Okay, well, you're doing that because you didn't have $100,000 cash to buy the $100,000. And let's say it's a single-family starter, 2-bedroom, 1-bath rental property. So just being broke and asking the question will get them into business if they work hard. Somebody might come in and provide all the money and let them be a 15% owner. They just made money. They just made an equity position in that property. Or the power of broke can also, if you think you don't have money to invest, but you're willing to put in the time and the due diligence and the research to develop a property and maybe get it rezoned. That increases value. Maybe remove the foliage, maybe remove, overgrowth and trees and bushes. It's worth $10,000 as it sits, or it's worth $20,000 if you remove everything off of it. And you've just increased your equity position, and then you take a partner for the 10, you both just made money. So, the meeting brings it from both ends, from guys that have been in the industry for decades, and they have resources to invest with you. Also, the network of these individuals, everybody knows somebody. Maybe I don't know how to get a plat done or a lot split done, but somebody in the room does. Maybe I don't have the capital to buy something, but somebody in the room does. And it's all a relationship game, and how can everybody benefit? So if you've got a tough property out there, maybe one that's been in a trust for a while that you don't know what to do with it, or maybe you just want to turn it into cash, maybe you want to develop it, give me or Carrie a call. We'd be glad to step you through that, give you ideas. Maybe you've got a property that you are upside down in. We've got an affiliate out of Georgia that trades in properties. She moves thousands of properties a year. She portfolios them, and she has taught us that it's not always about the exact equity of the property at the time you own it. It's about your willingness to transition. She will routinely, and she's coached me on this over and over, and she has perfected this model. Maybe it's not an ideal 1031. Maybe it's not a ideal list it and sell it, but she will buy properties sometimes that are upside down because they have positive cash flow. And then her dollar cost averaging, she will group 10 or 20 properties together and sell them as a portfolio to a 1031 buyer. So if you just bring a different set of eyes and you have a willingness to transact, really, there's no property. There is a value for every location, for every condition, any day of the week. You just have to be realistic about your approach and be willing to look at other options.
I think price is a big deal, too. I know whenever we were, and I keep referencing back to the Manhattan Project, but I had a bunch, and I still have, and they'll go back to sell again to the equity presentation again. But specifically, this one in Manhattan, it really all kind of came down to where we priced at, because everybody wanted a cap rate at a specific amount. And what that means by cap is, how much are the costs going out, how much is coming in, and then you take that number and divide it by the sales price. Well, cap rate,
correct.
Everybody wanted to be around 8% or higher. And that took some maneuvering to get that to happen, but we were able to do that. And I just listed another 4 properties in Manhattan for a whole different investor. And coming into it, he was around 6. And I said, you've got to be at least 8. Otherwise, you're just going to sit again. So we looked at the numbers and we maneuvered them around. And so now they're all at 8. So it's a great package to get into. So it's really about understanding what you have and how to move it too.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned. Some buyers like to buy based on a cap rate. So other buyers want to buy on a cash on cash return. They want to know they're getting X number of dollars back for X number of dollars they put into the deal, and still other buyers. You're exactly right. If you have a property you bought for $100,000 and it's after all expenses in, out. You do all your math at the end of the year. You ended up with $10,000. They call that a 10 cap. Now I'm not giving security pricings, or I'm just using these as general terms. But I looked at a property to mirror along with what you're saying. We would love to buy it, but the math doesn't work. They want entirely too much property for me and my group to buy. But all of the land that's involved, it works out to 75 cents a square foot, which in this area on this main thoroughfare is a great buy. But we can't look at it with a cap rate because it doesn't make sense. It's a fraction of 1%. It would take 100 years at its current performance before the investment pays us back. So we had what are the other values? What are the other uses? Can we sell off one part of the property and recoup some of our initial investment? And then we're looking at that. And then what is the entire project costing us to buy and hold? In this case, the seller, he has a number in his mind and he knows what he wants. And that's the price he wants. So we have to go back through our book of formulas and what is it we have to do to make this a viable project? And why do we want it so bad? It's an area we like. It's a type of property we like. We know we can make improvements to it to make it, more viable as an income property. But we may have to make several trades to make it work and meet the seller's goals. We don't represent the seller. In this case, we know his broker, and we've communicated with them. They told us what they want. We've met collectively. So I think we can get there, and that's part of what I like about equity trading is everybody gets to win. It's one side doesn't have to sell at a discount so the other side can win. In this case, I believe we're going to get this property transitioned and acquire it and make money on it, and the seller's going to get exactly what they want, even though on the surface it appears that they're overpriced at the moment. That doesn't always work with single-family homes, owner-occupied.
We're going to talk more about 1031 exchange, equity trading in our next show. Thank you so much, Broderick, for coming on. I want to remind everybody again, this Saturday at 2900 Northwest Button Road, we are having a free home buyer class, walking you through everything that goes into buying real estate. So thanks for joining us, and be sure and listen next week for more information about equity trading and 1031 exchanges. Thanks for joining us at Real Estate 101.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Carrie Brown team from Preferred Advisors.